Okay, we are now recording. All right, so first I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. So this panel is about safe parking and the best practices around safe parking programs. I want to just let everyone know that there's, again, kind of a technical check-in. The bottom of the screen, there's a chat function. You can talk to one another, comment, etc. in the chat screen. If you want to ask a question for the discussion part at the end of this session, put that in the Q&A box. I will check into the chat box, but mostly I'll be looking at the Q&A box for those questions. Before we get started, though, I want to talk about just a couple of ground rules. The first one I want to talk about is that this is a panel about safe parking. If you know, we want to be inclusive of everyone in this conversation, but if you are bringing in angry questions, we are probably not going to get to those. I want this is kind of tied to the second ground rule. I want everyone to come into this this event with positive intentions. So please keep that in mind in your chat, in the Q&A part. Positive intentions for this meeting. We are a small community organization. And we have asked these community organizations to come in and help us learn. So with that, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Angie. I work for Palo Alto Forward. And I want to thank both our panelists, the attendees for coming, and our co-host, the San Mateo County Safe Parking Coalition. If you're in San Mateo County and looking for other folks to connect with on that, please email me and I can connect you with any of them, or any of you who are involved in the Safe Parking Coalition. Feel free to put your contact information in the chat. I think they are a great resource in San Mateo County. Palo Alto Forward is in Santa Clara County, and most of the folks we are working with are in Palo Alto. This event, actually, I should tell you a little bit about Palo Alto Forward. So I've put our mission here is to innovate and expand housing choices and transportation mobility for a vibrant, welcoming, and sustainable Palo Alto. We work with residents and city government. Our real goal is to make Palo Alto a more inclusive, affordable, and environmentally sustainable city for everyone to live in. This event tonight is part of Affordable Housing Month. That is the entire month of May in San Francisco, Santa Clara County, and San Mateo County. We all celebrate Affordable Housing Month through the month of May. The city of Palo Alto also did a proclamation for the month of May to be Affordable Housing Month. And this whole month, we come together, we learn, we share our experiences, and it is really a great time for folks to celebrate the wins, but really to just come together and learn from one another. So thank you to all the organizations who have hosted with us. If you would like, there are still 2 more weeks left in Affordable Housing Month. The link at the bottom here, bit.ly/SV Housing Month 2021, will show you all of the other events that are happening this month. And I will make sure to share that link after this event as well. I hope that you will join us for more than one event if this is your first one. All right, so first, I want to tell you all a little bit about our speakers. We have Michael Love from Move Mountain View, who's going to talk a little bit about their programming and some of the work they do. They do not only work in Mountain View, they're also working in Palo Alto. That is how we got to know them. And then we have New Beginnings, that is Santa Barbara's Safe Parking Program. And we have Cassie Roach from the Safe Parking Program to talk about the work that they do. Unfortunately, we had Pastor Paul Bains was supposed to join us tonight, but it looks like that may not happen. So just bear with us. We're going to do the best we can. And it's unfortunate that they're missing, but they may be able to hop in part of the way. So we will definitely keep you posted if they can hop in. Now, I'm going to stop my sharing screen. And I am going to pass it over to Michael to talk a little bit more about Move Mountain View.
Thank you. Hi, this is Michael Love, and as Angie said, I'm working with Move Mountain View. I'm the operations manager at Move Mountain View, and we've been doing what we do for almost 3 years now. I have a couple of questions that were asked of us in preparation for this, and I'm going to share my responses. We were asked to talk about the goal of our work, where we operate, and how we partner with Santa Clara County in particular. So if you'll give me just a second, I'll put on a little very short slide deck here. Move Mountain View's purpose is pretty simplistic in a good way. We're driving towards housing through the vehicle of safe parking. So the essential part of this is to provide a safe space, the time, which is a huge resource that gets lost when you're constantly looking for a place to park, and the resources through partnership with our caseworkers and other providers in the county, so that our clients can engage in an intensive process that will help them eliminate obstacles, figure out what the things are for their particular pathway towards permanent housing options. A lot of the things that you and I take for granted, moving around the community, doing our daily business, really do consume a lot of time if you're also sort of moving your whole house around with you on your back, so to speak. So these help us with our main goal, the goal of Move Mountain View, which is to provide a pathway to housing. And safe parking is not the end, but really just the beginning and an essential component in that pathway, in that process. Our locations are in Palo Alto and Mountain View. We're not sure what to do about the name Move Mountain View. Maybe it has to change because now it's Move Palo Alto also. We're happy to be in partnership recently with the city. Our executive director, Amber Stein, has done a lot of work, outreach work in Palo Alto, and built this relationship that's led to a strong alliance with the city government and with a community of faith communities in Palo Alto. So we're happy to have just opened a highway Christian community parking lot, which is a low density 4-car parking lot, and the Genge Road safe parking, which is a 12 RV lot and has kind of focused on families that have kids in the school system. There's going to be some room for other people, but at the start we got good help from PAUSD to help out folks that had their kids enrolled in Palo Alto. In Mountain View, that's our historical starting place. We have one small lot at the Lord's Grace Christian Church of 4 cars. We have a second church, but they're on hiatus for some other programming they have. The Shoreline lot and the Terabello Avenue safe parking in the VTA are the county operated lots that give us a total of 175 people at any one time that we're serving. That's a lot of souls that are being helped rather than chased around on the street by tow trucks and ticketing. So that's our average population, the total capacity in vehicles being 91 RVs and 28 cars and or vans. We were asked about partnership with the county and how we go about that. We have many cooperative partners as any organization our size would have, and we work in cooperation with local and county municipal governments, local congregations, foundations, and individual donors and others. Lots of volunteers bringing food to the lots and so on. But chief among these is our working relationship with the county. From that relationship, we have developed a kind of a big sister relationship with them, because they can sometimes allay concerns of the local municipality. They have broad shoulders, and they can help provide some view from the regional kind of perspective of how things are going on in the county. But particularly, they have helped us by giving us our client screening and intake process is modeled after the training that we received through the Office of Supportive Housing. Casework and housing placement standards are part of the same agency's structure. And above all, the connection with other partners throughout the continuum of care. One of those examples would be for us a new addition to the services we can add to for our clients is through the Dignity on Wheels project of Pastor Bains and Project WeHope, so that we can offer 4 nights of showers with laundry services on our lots. We have 2 at one site and 2 at another, and then folks commute from the smaller lots to these lots where we can have the benefit of partnering with somebody that could do something that we could never do. We could not manage the great work that Dignity on Wheels does. So we get to share in that, and our clients get to benefit. Those are my remarks for a quick overview of what, let's see if I can, there we go. Stop sharing, there we go. Those are the kind of overview quickly of who we are, and I look forward to answering some of your questions later at the break.
Thank you, Michael. So I am going to hand it over to Cassie from Santa Barbara.
Okay, see if I can unmute myself. All right, well, thank you. My name is Cassie Roach. I'm the programs manager for New Beginnings Safe Parking Program. So I will just go over a little bit of the history of the program, and then some of our best practices and kind of housing related searches and efforts for our folks. So the program first began in 2003, and New Beginnings took over operating the program in 2004. So it came about due to local community advocates seeing a need to provide services for folks in RVs specifically. And a couple of our county board supervisors at the time took the project on and kind of looked around and saw coming out of their office one night an empty parking lot, and realized that they could repurpose this community resource to be utilized to help folks who were residing in RVs. And so Safe Parking was born in Santa Barbara. And since then, they quickly saw that there's a need to provide services to folks in all kinds of vehicles. And so we expanded to serve all vehicles. And right now it's probably 20% RVs, and the rest of folks are in standard vehicles, cars, trucks, vans, what have you. And we now have 156 spaces spread out through 26 different lots. So we have found that in our community, folks are a little bit more wary, and so we keep lot locations confidential and spread out the impact. So we have usually 5 or 6 spaces in each of our lots, so that no one neighborhood is disproportionately impacted, and you can walk through our lots at night and have no idea that there are 4 or 5 people sleeping in them, sleeping in their vehicles there. And that has helped us to combat some of the NIMBYism and the idea of not in my backyard, that folks don't want people experiencing homelessness to be near them. So we're able to operate a little bit more under the radar and avoid that. And we are currently expanding into the northern part of our county. So that is making history in the progress in process. So we're very excited about that and are working through all of the difficulties there and learning as we go. So even though we've been around for over 17 years, there's still more to learn. And our lots don't have security on site during the entirety that they're open. They operate roughly 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. and we have lot monitors that do random rounds in the middle of the night. So we find that that is the most effective way for us to do so, due to the fact that we have 26 different locations. We usually serve more individuals and couples rather than families. So out of the 156 spaces, we often have some that are open because they're reserved specifically for RVs or specifically for a family. So usually serving 150 to 160 people each evening. And all of our services come with rapid rehousing efforts as well. So we're working with folks that about a third are actively employed, but then we also have a third that are over age 62 and many folks that are disabled. So we've worked really hard to engage landlords in the community. So that looks like having actual landlord lunches where we invite different property managers and have a lunch, tell them about our program, the different funding sources that we have, and how we can partner with them to help fill their vacancies. So oftentimes that's doing double deposits for folks that might not have the best credit score. Sometimes we're able to have the property managers and private landlords waive credit requirements so that our clients who do have those poor credit scores are able to have a chance at getting a unit. Case managers will write kind of character references or fill out a landlord reference for the folks that have been staying in our lots, and we can speak to them being a good neighbor, them renewing their permits on time, things that would be kind of important to landlords. And we also partner with a local agency that has mitigation funds. So they're able to provide incentives to landlords to partner with them and partner with us. And they also have funding above and beyond the security deposit should there be further damages that need to be paid for and repaired within the unit. So that can also be very enticing to landlords as an extra sense of security and backup should things go south. We've never had to use any of those funds, but it is a nice extra security blanket for landlords willing to take a chance on a population that they're not so comfortable with. But it's really just building relationships with our folks who are staying in the lot, doing really active and engaged case management to make sure that they're on all the subsidized housing wait lists, that we're doing Craigslist searches that will often make a kind of a profile and a little about me blurb to be able to send to Craigslist ads so that they are putting their best foot forward and reaching out to landlords very proactively. We've made almost like a renter resume or a tenant resume for our folks so that they can have everything ready for a landlord, their tenancy history, if they have any recently, which can often be a struggle for folks. And that's where case managers will often write up a little blurb about the client and how they've been participating with us and what that's looked like. Sometimes clients will be able to get character references from friends, or maybe they had crashed with a friend for a month or two or a couple weeks, and their friend can speak to how they were as a housemate, how they upkept the unit. And just trying to be really creative because our population does have a lot of barriers in trying to get back into housing. So we definitely try and think outside the box as best we can and work with folks to apply for Social Security benefits if they don't already have them, doing resume development, partnering with the Employment Development Department or vocational rehab to get folks connected to employment and try and increase their income that way. We do budgets with folks so that we're able to save every little penny that we can here and there so that they can start storing up money for the security deposit if needed, or just being able to make rent payments on their own. We're fortunate that we do have the rapid rehousing funding that we're able to provide for our clients to have those security deposits, to have some ongoing rental assistance on a very short-term basis, but that helps them get the foot in the door, and we can help them kind of stabilize in housing. We do have a housing navigator that does the searches, and then we have a housing retention specialist that works with folks once they are housed to make sure that they understand their lease, they understand how to upkeep a unit. Oftentimes they haven't been in traditional housing in a very long time. So it's kind of reteaching folks how to remain housed and how to clean their unit and things like that, to make sure that the landlord's happy, they're happy, rent is being paid, and they're able to maintain that housing that they've worked hard for and waited a long time for in many cases. So I think those were the main points that we wanted to cover this evening.
Thank you, Cassie. That was really great. As it was really, I already learned a lot just listening. So that was really helpful summary of how kind of the progression for you all. I want to hop right into questions because we're already getting, I've gotten some questions that have been emailed to me, and we're getting some in the chat. Thumbs up, thumbs down, if we can hop into questions.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to start with one that is for both of you. So how this, and this is a question that we get, that I've heard in Palo Alto, I've heard in many other cities. You can hear my children slamming the door. I apologize. They don't apologize. So how do you balance security for your residents in safe parking sites with privacy? So some residents have proposed background checks here. Others have fought against any security measures. How do you all balance those things in Santa Barbara? And then Michael, how do you balance those things in your sites in Palo Alto and Mountain View? And I'll hand it to Michael first.
Yeah, thank you. We get that as a frequent question that's raised, particularly in community conversations where neighbors are trying to sort of wrap their heads around the idea of what that would be like to have something nearby. I think the first thing that I want to do is to indirectly answer this and to say that these are folks that are ordinarily in our landscape. And we see them more clearly if they're in a safe parking lot, but they're ordinarily in Palo Alto or Mountain View, where have you, and are generally not getting in trouble with the police, right? So there's a surround that I want to create before we start looking at finding something that we are hoping is already there or assuming is already there, which is some kind of background that we're going to discover. These are folks like you and I that would have had jobs, homes, all sort, kids in school that live and reside in our communities historically, and have slipped down to that place that our big income gap has created, the way that we've decided to build housing and the way that we've allowed wages to turn into two very distant points, very low to the very high. That said, we follow the structure that the county gives us, which is that background checks are without cause, are something that is essentially an invasion of privacy. And it's a restriction of the rights of the homeless. We are concerned about safety, as are the homeless. They don't want someone violent or dangerous on the lot any more than we do. And we can come and go. They're on the lot. They're on the safe lot. They're very concerned about security. So we do work in the present tense of what's going on the lot in our community, and work with local PD and our lot monitors as observers. And we have not found that this is a pattern that has had too much danger in it at all. We have not had someone suddenly emerge on the lot who is a dangerous person that shouldn't be on the lot. If somebody is, we're not sure, but I would guess that if someone is in that category, they're not going to come to a place where they get scrutinized over their ID and go through an intake process and have to meet with us face to face and register and go into the county system. They're going to want to lay low and be, be unseen, as opposed to coming into a lot which is reasonably intentionally public for them as an experience. So because it's not a practice of the county, and we are under the jurisdiction of the county, and because it doesn't seem to add any danger by proceeding this way, as far as we've experienced, and other providers would possibly reflect the same, we do not do background checks. We do expect them to be licensed and other ways in which they would potentially reveal themselves if they're having some sort of background issue. But short answer is we want to protect the privacy of our clients. I have not had to ever have a background check in Palo Alto in order to get, I may have a credit check, but I've not had a background check to get an apartment, for example. So there's also a question of equity.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And I've heard that the equity piece of it as well, and whether there are some fair housing laws that come into play around background checks for safe parking. I also think your point around self-selection is really helpful, and I had not thought about that. Cassie, what about you? What do you all do that might be different, the same? How are you all thinking about that in Santa Barbara?
Yeah, we're very similar. So in Santa Barbara proper, the city of Santa Barbara and the county unincorporated areas that we have lots, there's no requirement for background checks. The city of Goleta, when they made their ordinance to allow our program, did require background checks. So we have a select few lots that do require them. And we've never had anyone turned away because of it. So it's kind of just this box that's checked, this extra cost that the program has to accrue, and there's no benefit from it that we've seen. No one has been screened out because of it. No one has been turned away. That there's never been an issue. So the city of Goleta is actually in talks with us to revise their ordinance as a result. So we also operate under housing first premise and wanting to have as low barrier entry as possible. So scrutinizing someone over their background and not really taking into account where they currently are and what they're working towards does not seem very fair in our eyes. And so we recognize that everyone has a past, and sometimes some pasts are a bit more checkered than others, but if they're presenting with license, registration, and insurance, and they're willing to go through the lengthy intake process, self-disclose, be upfront with us, and be willing to work with us, then we want to give them that shot, because everyone deserves that chance. And if they can comply with program rules, then great. That's all we ask.
Great. Thank you. Very helpful. Great answers. Thank you to both of you. Our next question, also an emailed question. This one is for Cassie. When Santa Barbara made motorhome parking illegal, how did the transition from overnight to 24-hour safe parking occur?
It was a lengthy process. We're very fortunate that we've had a great relationship with the city of Santa Barbara since the very beginning of the program, and that has gone a long way towards our benefit. So the city actually worked with us to convene a special committee to try and find daytime parking spaces. And they actually pushed implementation of the ordinance back almost an entire year so that we had time to find these daytime spots for our folks. So we don't have any lots that are a full 24/7. We have our roughly 12-hour nighttime lots and 12-hour daytime lots. And clients that are in nighttime lot A have to go to daytime lot B. So we don't allow anyone to stay 24/7 in one specific location. That was part of the stipulation with the city, is that no one can stay 24/7. And we've seen that it's a benefit. During COVID, we did have folks be able to stay 24/7 to shelter in place, and it had its downsides. Folks get a little comfortable, and it's more difficult to enforce the please don't have all of your belongings outside your vehicle. That's not ideal and against program rules. So that's part of why we don't have a 24/7 space. But we were able to work really closely with the city and reach out to faith-based communities in order to find the daytime lots, which is quite difficult because the success of nighttime is that they're empty lots that aren't being utilized, but during the daytime they are utilized. So we continue to look for more and more daytime lots to this day as a result.
Yeah. I'm going to kind of piggyback on that one since you're already unmuted. This is a question that fascinated me when you were talking as well. This question comes from Patty. How do the city permits inform, engage the neighborhood where safe parking is if it's confidential? How did that work?
So the ordinance just allows us to partner with the lot owner, and there is no permitting process. It's just getting the lot owner's permission and having a memorandum of understanding that we're utilizing the lot. And that's the way the city and county ordinances are written, that you aren't allowed to be in a motorhome on the street, but if you're in a lot and it's tied with a social service agency, then it's okay. And there's no conditional use permit, there's no administrative use permit. So as of right now in South County, there is no permitting process, there's no flyering process. The city of Goleta does require us to flyer neighbors, and we've seen that we haven't added a lot in the city bounds of Goleta in many years as a result. And again, they're wanting to actually amend the ordinance because of that, because it can be a bit restrictive when neighbors that mean well, but have inherent biases and preconceived notions about folks living in vehicles, and anyone who's considered homeless, they see as bringing more crime to the neighborhood, trash and drug use, and all these things that we have not seen in our population, but neighbors often have as that preconceived notion. So it makes it that much more difficult to have the community buy-in. But as we're expanding to North County, we are having conversations with the community members and the neighbors, because they are much more vocal and want more of a permitting process. So we are going through that right now in the northern part of our county as we expand. And we're still working on it. It's still in process. We just had a city council meeting last night, so it's not quite settled yet.
Super helpful. Thank you. And I'll just see, Michael, do you have any kind of thoughts or additions? I know that there's no confidential lots in Mountain View or Palo Alto, but if you had any kind of thoughts or comments around best ways to engage neighbors around some of the lots as they're being permitted.
I don't. I think that having the engaged conversations with the community is your best bet. It won't always yield great outcomes. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but appealing to the idea that these are not people that are coming into our community to park on our streets because they're hiding out from being in a different place. They haven't commuted to Palo Alto to be homeless. They haven't commuted to Mountain View to be homeless. These are our neighbors. And it takes a while, a long while, but I think people of goodwill have made that journey to see that these are our neighbors and we're responsible for each other. And it's hard. I think it's especially hard for folks to deal with unhoused neighbors because, you know, there, but for the grace of God, you or I could be in a twinkling of an eye. And so there's got to be a way that we just create that human bridge, that these are folks in need. And there's going to be tough questions. And some of the questions that are hard are actually, you know, really good questions. It's reasonable for anybody anywhere to be concerned about safety. And some of the folks we talk to that are concerned, turns out they're concerned equally for the safety of the clients. How is this going to benefit them? Are they in a bad spot? Is this, you know, right for them? Is this healthy for them? So I think engagement is critical, and lots of it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If I could just add to that, on the safety piece, helping neighbors understand that the folks that they are already in the community, and it's much safer for clients and for community members if folks have a safe, monitored place to go at night versus being on some dark street where if someone does have an ill intention of wanting to prey upon someone, they're going to go for someone that is by themselves isolated on a dark street versus in a lot that's monitored where there's a few other people and cars parked. So that's also important to consider, and having the political will is really important. So you can have the community meetings, you can have public comment, but at the end of the day, city council or county board supervisors are going to support the program and say, let's try it. And if it doesn't work, then we can revisit it, but let's just try. And then community members can see that it really does work and it runs very smoothly and seamlessly.
Yeah, great. Thank you. This is also kind of connected to some of, Michael, what you were saying. What do you do when folks start moving into your community to seek services, to participate in the safe parking programs? And either of you can go first.
At least I can go first. They don't move to our community. The if you build it, they will come is not at all accurate with safe parking programs in our experience. In Santa Barbara County, nearly 80% of folks experiencing homelessness have been in Santa Barbara County, are residents, and lost housing in Santa Barbara County. Sure, safe parking has become fairly well known, but it does not bring folks to the community. We are working with local community members who are already here and are in need of services here because this is their community. Even trying to move someone from the west side of Santa Barbara to the east side of Santa Barbara is too much for them. They have roots in their community and they want to be here. And we just don't see folks from out of town, even though Santa Barbara is very much a tourist location. It's a big spot for folks to come through and visit, but we have not seen the program draw new folks from out of town just for the program.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Michael?
I ditto for us. Our experience has been that people have fallen into vehicle dwelling from losing their apartment or their home in Mountain View or in Palo Alto, that they have many times been long-term residents. They've gone through the schools themselves or have kids currently in school. They may work in any of the service kinds of jobs that the housing has been, disappearing for. Folks that make a good amount of money, but not good enough to live in the housing that we're choosing to provide in our communities. The statistics are about the same for us in Santa Clara County, that about 80% of the folks who fell into homelessness were residents of Santa Clara County when they fell into homelessness. So this is often about people feeling strong bonds to their home and wanting to be trying as hard as they can, whatever they can figure out to do, to stay in Palo Alto, to stay in Mountain View, because they have roots here. And it's kind of a tender thing to see, but that's the truth of it. They're home already. They're not living where they'd like to live, but they are home. And so we have that same experience. We do get people that come along from San Jose or some other location, and generally they're going to have a better chance getting qualified in a program closer to where they originated from. And we simply redirect and help them get into something it's going to be nearer to their probable stomping grounds already, where they're working or where they have kids in school. So we actually just help them get redirected towards something that's going to actually serve them better.
Yeah. That makes sense. People are near where their support network is. Why would they leave that in a time of crisis? Great, thank you. So this is a question that I love. What percentage of safe parking residents move to permanent housing, and what are the barriers to doing so? I think this is a big question, and you might have different data in each of your programs. So I'll go with Cassie first. How does that work in Santa Barbara?
Santa Barbara's tough. I mean, all across the state at this point, and more or less the country, has very difficult housing markets. So we usually house roughly 60 people each year. This year, we've already surpassed that. We still have 2 months in our fiscal year and have housed about 70 people so far. And it could be difficult because a lot of the folks we're serving are seniors, are disabled, and their only real option for long-term permanent housing is a subsidized housing situation. And in Santa Barbara County, those waiting lists are 7 to 10 years. So if someone had been living in an apartment for the past decade, they are not paying anywhere near fair market value, and a new investor comes in, buys the property and says, I'm going to renovate, everyone needs to leave. They are now 60, 70 years old, and it forced into a housing market that they have no way of keeping up with. And so they have to wait for subsidized housing. So the lack of affordable housing is a really big barrier. Lack of income that keeps up with the cost of living is a huge barrier. Oftentimes our folks haven't had rental history in a while. They have poor credit due to medical bills that piled up, due to a divorce that they just lost everything in, all kinds of different really tragic situations. And it just makes housing very, very difficult. But we are able to transition quite a few folks every year and are continuing to increase that. As we further increase capacity, we're bringing on more and more housing related staff to help assist both our clients and coordinate entry system clients, which is
and
a referral source.
Can I make sure I understood? Did you say that this year you've housed more, you've helped more folks find permanent? And
yes,
can I,
oddly enough,
yeah, can I ask, why do you think that's happening? This is not in our Q&A box, but I'm curious if you have any theories or programs that you think are really working.
I think part of it is where we were fortunate that our community was able to have a lot more vouchers given out as a result of the pandemic. And landlords, because they had a lot of tenants who were unable to pay rent, now saw vouchers as a really positive thing because they're more stable. The government is paying, the housing authority is able to pay consistently. So at least they would be getting that source of income. And so I think it really just opened landlords' minds to the possibility of vouchers. The law changing to have a subsidy be considered income so that vouchers can't be discriminated against was a huge driving force as well that went into effect in the beginning of 2020. So I think largely the vouchers were a huge help, and then just landlords being more open-minded to receiving subsidies through rapid rehousing funding as well.
Yeah, great. That's fascinating. Michael, What about here? I know it's a different housing market. The opportunities for subsidized affordable housing are also decades-long wait lists. What does it look like for you all?
Well, there's still that, I want to thank Cassie for bringing up the idea or the point that, government infusion of funds from the Fed and from the state has really made a difference. There's a real intentional focus and a political will at the county level as well to get these things to people so they can afford more than they could, a minute ago. That said, we are also coming out of a time when it was difficult because of COVID to have people just moving about, trying to do, even just have casework done or get to an appointment to see an apartment or something. We are young and growing, and we just added end of last year, in December, we added 2 caseworkers so that we weren't subbing that out to another agency. And we've seen a good increase in the amount of people that we can have exiting to some form of housing. You have to remember that of all the kinds of transitional shelters, safe parking statistically is a very small fraction of the whole. And we're still sort of a stepping stone to other areas, either rapid rehousing opportunities or some sort of permanent supportive housing or just, transitional situations. So we contribute to housing placement indirectly at this time. Sometimes it could go directly into it, but we're part of a continuum of care. And so if you look downstream in Santa Clara County, the latest figures I could find while I'm doing fast research here is that in 2019, 72% of the folks that were enrolled in rapid rehousing were placed. So that's a big effect that adds up. And from all the places that are feeding into that stream, when we're a part of that, we feel that we're a part of a very effective mechanism. If I had to guess on the numbers that we have of people that have gone into housing placement, they have also increased strangely recently for some of the same reasons I think Cassie mentioned. We're getting used to this environment, and we're basking in the release of some funds that are helping. I would say that we're at 10 to 15% and growing in terms of who we have. We remember we started as essentially a shelter-in-place event when we began our lots. Almost immediately upon opening our lots, we were enlisted by the county to become a shelter-in-place resource, and we did. So we also have encountered folks that are going to move on to something else now that the emergency is ending, because they didn't come to us with the idea that they were looking for housing. They were coming out of this mandate to get people protected. So we're happy to participate and cooperate with that. And we're sort of sorting that out now. But of the people who are interested in housing, who can make that a part of their vision, I would say 10 to 15% and growing.
Great, thank you. This is a question for Michael. It's very regional specific. Michael, have there been discussions around how to further expand programs like yours in the city of Mountain View as it begins to enforce the oversized vehicle parking ordinance?
Yes, surprisingly. There is always eagerness to go, to whatever the next step is. And we're kind of bound by living into the incredible support we've received from Mountain View and from the county to see them going in from their stage of growth happens to be looking at something that was, maybe this is a pilot, maybe it can work, into, oh yeah, this is working, and now into a stage where they're considering how they might make this a longer term commitment on the part of the city. That's not growth in lots, but that's growth in political will and commitment that we're really excited about. I know a lot, it's really great when people ask that question about lots, and when they find one, I hope they'll call me up so that we could try to engage a landlord or an owner, because part of this is that part of the reality of this is that the lots, for us anyway, have been uh, sought out and acquired, or sought out and navigated through the negotiations through the agency of the county and the city. And it would not be impossible for local corporations with lots, or the phenomenon we're seeing with congregations that have lots, to also say, how can we get involved, and how can you consult with us and work with us and become an operator of a lot on our property? It doesn't always have to be municipal property.
Yeah, and so we have another question that's kind of on that point. And Cassie, I think you may have said this, but the lots that can be used, what are being used? Private shopping center lots, county lots, city lots, like, is it anything and everything? Or can you talk a little bit about that? And then separate question in the same question, but how long do vehicle dwellers stay in the lots on average? Are folks finding new housing within 6 months, a year, or are they moving on to somewhere else in 6 months or a year? So I'll first let you answer the question about, like, could it be literally any lot? Like, could Palo Alto just look at any lot here and say, hey, this is a great location, and the owner is happy to use it as safe parking?
Yeah. That's how we operate. So about 50% of our lots are faith-based, so churches, but we do have city-owned lots, county-owned lots, nonprofit, and even a couple for-profit businesses. So we're fortunate that the ordinance is very, very flexible. That's just, if it's a private lot and the owner's amenable, sign an MOU, have at it. So any lot works. We've found that shopping centers.
That was part of your ordinance that made sure the language was flexible around. Great, that's helpful.
Yeah. So with private shopping centers or state-owned lots, unfortunately, can be quite difficult. We cover liability insurance for all of our lots, but a lot of the time, the more shopping centers or like big box, well, not even big box stores, like where there's a Ross or more of the shopping centers, just are more concerned about the liability piece. And even though we cover the liability insurance, they're still not willing to take a chance. So when there's a corporate involved, we've not had success in obtaining those lots. So the much bigger ones, unfortunately, are harder to come by, but otherwise we're able to try, but not always successful with those folks.
That's very helpful. And then can you also say, I think I asked this as a second part, how long are folks usually staying on the lots? I know you said some of your 24-hour lots are actually 12 and then 12 hours and hours. But like days, months, what does that look like?
The average is generally 12 to 18 months. And there's a large variance in that. Some folks are able to self-resolve in a couple weeks. Some people, it's been several years that they've been with us. Again, kind of going back to the disabled seniors just waiting for subsidized housing. Being in their vehicles, they're really their only real option while they're waiting for that. So sometimes we give them that safe holding place and connection to services while they're waiting. Generally, it's 12 to 18 months to be able to kind of regroup, stabilize, increase employment, increase benefits, and be able to transition into housing.
So their length of time often really is determined by how easily, housing can be attained.
Yeah.
Kind of connected to what we said prior to this, but so I know I asked you both what percentage gets housed, but do you all look at the data both in Santa Barbara and Mountain View? Actually, Mountain View, I'm not sure your program's been around long enough to answer this question, but do you know how many folks have been able to retain their housing a year later? Because I think that's a big question, especially when we're talking about folks who have been chronically homeless or homeless more than one time.
Yeah. So for us, I want to say it's over 95%, but it's definitely over 90%.
That's great.
So we do have the retention services that are so vital, because oftentimes, again, folks aren't used to being in housing in a while. So we have to help them reorient and learn that they can throw trash away because they now have a trash can that's readily accessible. They don't have to let things pile up, or they have to take the trash out every week or every couple days. And just the little reorienting things. And we work with folks to really make it a home so that they feel like this is their space that they're able to keep, and they can do whatever they please within lease regulations. And they don't need to go back out to their vehicle, that this is their place, this is their home. And those services help folks to retain their housing and mediate with a landlord if needed. And so we have seen an over 90% retention rate.
Great. And that is because you all have a retention program to make sure that folks are able to stay in housing once they get it. It's great. Let me start with you, Michael. How could folks volunteer, help safe parking lots? What are ways that folks can help?
There's lots of ways. They can actually serve at the lot if they're part of a meals program that could deliver food to our lots. We have a couple of groups that do that, and they register with us so we know when they're on the lot, and we don't end up having, you know, two groups at the same time and make some logistical things. That we get donations of things. We ask people to get in touch with us. We always sort of have a wish list of things that we would like to be collecting. Right now we're thinking that business clothes would be real handy for somebody who's just had a shower at the shower services and wants to put on a nice suit and go interview for an apartment or a job or something. So we're trying to put together a wardrobe of you know, primarily adult, but maybe even children's clothing so they feel better at school, you know. So just helping people feel they're not sticking out so much and trying to make the best of their situation. We are happy to have a volunteer in Palo Alto who's helped us start a rather nice library in the Genge Road facility. And we are looking for folks that would be part of a reading and tutoring program there that could coordinate with, be coordinated through our office. There are lots of ways that you know, people could reach out to us and just, you know, we could put them to volunteer work. There's so many things. I mean, a lot of what goes on the lot above and beyond just providing a square of asphalt and, you know, water and some porta potties is that the community can gather it. All those partners can gather their energy around that and multiply the kinds of services that are available informally to our guests, to our clients. So we would happily take as many calls as we could, and if people will be patient with us because we're small, we could find them some things to help out easily.
Great. So volunteers, Michael has plenty of things for you to do. We'll make sure to share.
I'll put my phone number in the chat.
Perfect. And we can include that in the follow-up email. Okay, so we're approaching an hour here, or we've hit an hour here. We had another half an hour scheduled, so I want to try and get through the last few questions quickly to make sure we've covered a lot. So the next one is for Cassie. Do the vehicles in Santa Barbara have a sticker? How do folks know that those vehicles are participating in the safe parking lot, and do police know which vehicles are participating?
Yes, so we have just a paper permit that has the client's first name, the lot location, and the times that they're allowed to be in the lot, and the vehicle information. And so we have them place that on their dashboard at night, and we keep a running log and send that to our lot monitors every night and update them so that they're aware of who's supposed to be in the lot. And that way, if someone does wander in who's not part of the program, then they're able to recognize and engage that individual and give them information about the program and how to get enrolled. The police department doesn't have the current list of all of our clients, but we do presentations every so often at the shift change so that we can make sure that the different officers are aware of the program so that we can be a resource for them and so that they are aware this is what our permit looks like. They're one of the only entities that we do actually share all of our lot locations with so that the different officers can be aware of the lots that are kind of on their beat. And but mainly it's just a permit that goes in their window or on their dashboard.
Great. This one, Michael, this is a little more geared to you, but Cassie, feel free to hop in. What opportunities and obstacles do you see for expanding the safe parking program in Palo Alto?
Well, I think there's only opportunities because the mindset in Palo Alto is in a really good place. The reception to the whole idea of permitting congregations to offer their space and the incredible gift in kind that the city's given by the Genge lot. The Genge street lot is an incredible place. It's one of our only fully fenced, protected lots where the big safety thing in our lots is always our people wandering in from outside of the lot. The trouble doesn't come from the lots, it comes into the lots. So Genge Road is a protected, gated lot, and it has a programmable building that we're working on fixing up so that we could do more things in their services right on site. So the atmosphere and the welcome in Palo Alto is remarkable. I think that more congregations are going to be seeing that they could offer their parking lots that it is actually sort of light duty, light lifting, and it may be more palatable for Palo Alto as well to have. These would be low density sites that are spread throughout the community might be a better fit as well. It would be nice to get some more acreage somewhere. That's a big ask, and we just see what happens. But we're excited because the reception and the political energy behind this has been terrific. So we're happy and surprised to be welcomed so much that I think however folks of vision see this going, it can go.
Great. Thank you, Michael. So this one is for both of you. This is a great one. Okay, so you both mentioned operating safe parking programs for RVs. What are some of the differences you've experienced between operating an RV and vehicle safe parking? So there are lots of I have seen, the data that's being collected is now sometimes differentiating between types of vehicles. Can both of you talk a little bit about whether you have both cars, different kinds of vehicles, and RVs, and what are some similarities and differences?
RVs can be difficult. They do require more space, so some of the smaller lots just aren't feasible for RVs. They can be nice if they're self-contained, then we don't have to bring in porta potties, because we do have a couple lots that are solely for RVs. So that is a benefit. One of the biggest downsides is the fact that most of them are from the 1980s and can break down quite a bit. And because they're much older, it's more difficult to find parts for them. It's difficult to find mechanics with that expertise, or even mechanics that have a shop big enough to work on an RV. So I think that's the biggest downside of the vehicle itself. Sometimes folks that are residing in RVs are a bit more not quite as motivated, because they are able to have a bed at night to sleep in and actually stretch out, as opposed to sitting upright in a vehicle. And we typically see a lot more of our seniors in RVs, oddly enough. A lot of times they've kind of saved up just their last bit that they could, and knowing that the impending exit from housing was happening, and buy an RV because that's kind of the best option that they have at that moment. So typically more of our seniors and long-term clients are in RVs.
Great, that's very helpful. Michael, any comparing, contrasting? Actually, I'm not sure if you guys do RVs, cars, trucks.
We do.
Okay.
We host RVs and cars, vans is kind of a category of the smaller. Something that we've noticed is that it's a lot harder, it's really hard to live alone in a vehicle. And the isolation is a real serious mental health, danger. So to live alone in a vehicle and not be able to even lay down to sleep, like in a car, is a really crippling kind of a environment. So I think one of the things that is notable is the sort of underserved folks that are living in vehicles. They can disappear during the day. They can drive around, and if they're not carrying a lot of their gear in the back and their belongings, they're just moving around through doing their business like you and I. RVs are harder to have disappear, so we pick them out in the landscape. We see them more quickly, but I think there's special needs for folks that are living in vans and cars, particularly around issues of isolation. And if we're trying to get them to move towards housing, community living is a housing skill. And if you've been living by yourself in a car for a couple of years, you're some pretty scrappy people from time to time, and it's going to be hard for them to maybe envision living in community again. So there's some challenges related to the ultimate goal of getting them housed. RVs, I agree. We find that some folks do get pretty comfy in the RV, and it has to come down to, it's a reasonable choice given the environment to buy an RV and cut your costs. But it makes it harder for people to get over that hump to get started towards housing, because, hey, I'm already housed. So that can be an issue. But many of our RV folks are still very eager to get housing. I should be careful to not typify them as a bunch. So we do notice differences in those populations.
Thank you. That's really helpful. So we have one question left. And again, thank you to our panelists. So we'll do this last question. This one is, for churches that might not be able to provide nighttime spaces, is there a need in Palo Alto for daytime lots? What are the requirements for a site to qualify as a daytime lot? So Cassie, can you talk a little bit about what lots are usually daytime lots?
Most of ours are city owned, because it was really, really difficult to find those lots. So the city really put their money where their mouth was and really backed us and supported us and provided those spaces. We do have a church that participates in our daytime program, and they actually do have a fairly small lot, so it's kind of surprising, but they were big supporters and wanted to make do and provide for us as well. So they did so, and they have the space and were able to make that a possibility. They also are in a residential neighborhood, so they can have folks park in their lot and then park on the street, and it's not a problem. So it doesn't really interfere with their daytime activities. And the city-owned lots are commuter lots, so they're just big parking lots that normally folks have to pay a permit for to park and then commute into downtown. So there's already space available there, and it's just an easy solution for us.
Great. That's very helpful. Well, I mean, this was fantastic. I really appreciated both of you taking the time tonight to tell us more about your program and just let us ask you lots of questions. Before we end, is there anything that either of you want to add? I feel like this was one of the best parts for me about hearing about both of these programs are also that, you know, I think it's really easy to get down right now about, you know, what's doing well. And I think hearing that your programs are actually you're doing more, they're more successful right now during COVID than they have been in the past at getting people permanent housing is really great. So those allocations, that money, those vouchers are working. And I'm really glad to hear that. So thank you. Either of you, any like last comments or thoughts, and you don't have to have any.
Well, thank you for inviting us so that we could speak with the community. It's been good to do this and have a kind of an exchange of good questions. Lots of good questions came in. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to encourage anyone who is interested to really talk with their friends, talk with their neighbors about safe parking programs and about rapid rehousing, because if up in Palo Alto it starts expanding, you might end up needing church lots. And if you are friends with the pastor that maybe their church would be interested in participating, that would be a huge benefit and networking opportunity. If you're friends with folks that have rental units, landlords, educating them on rapid rehousing programs and Section 8 vouchers, and maybe working to convince them to rent to someone within the safe parking program. Really just leveraging networks and relationships that you already have and helping to serve the more underserved folks that are in the community.
Great.
Thank you again for putting this on and hosting us, and I really appreciate that you're opening this conversation up.
We are happy to help and happy to be part of Affordable Housing Month. Thank you both for the work that you are doing, and I hope you both have a great night.
Thank you.